Hello, I'm delighted today on this podcast to be joined by the chairs of the town boards of Cleator and Millom. With me today, I've got Kayleigh Daniels, who's chaired up the Cleator town board, and I've got Robert Morris-Eyton joining us down there from Witcham Valley, who's chaired the Millom bid. I'm delighted that the town bids have been submitted to government today. These have been very much fronted by Robert and by Kayleigh. Robert, chair of the Millom board, can you just give a little bit of sort of background to how that came about?
Surprise telephone call from yourself, Mike, one sunny day. Would I do it? I think you had my arm up my back. In weak moments, I said yes. It's been quite a task. I've enjoyed doing it and really look forward to delivering for Millom.
Can you talk about the board a little bit, Robert, and how that was, how that come together and how it's representative of the community?
The board spans a wide range of people from private sector, public sector, third sector, and various other government organisations, councils, etc. And it was always going to be a challenge bringing together a group of people who'd never worked in that scenario before, essentially. And the key thing was to pull together what Millom wanted from the within the criteria, to pull together the bid to get the strategic plan submitted.
And Kayleigh, how did your journey entail, what did it entail to becoming the chair of the Cleator board?
Yeah, so I think for myself, obviously the people I work with, people like Pete Woolligan, we've had great experience going down. We went to East London to see how they'd redeveloped the area, the dockyards, before the Olympics and being part of the bid process. And obviously I live, work in Cleator, and I think I've got a lot of experience bringing stakeholders together. So I think the conversation started with probably yourself and Pat Graham at Copeland. And then we actually went through the election process at the first board meeting as well. So it was almost like put forward for the process, but we got the board to vote that in. I can't say it wasn't a challenging start, but it was tricky from literally day one. I think, like Robert, I did say to a few of the board members, I couldn't say that I haven't enjoyed parts of it. I think the board have been brilliant, so supportive, good representation. Some people with 30 years experience in regeneration, some people with none whatsoever, and just a load of passion for the town. And we have had some good laughs and some really hard weeks, but like Robert, we're just really all hopeful that we'll get something really good for our town. So that's where we're at the minute.
Great stuff. Robert, this, a lot of people will have the impression that the bids for both Millom and Cleator are council bids to government. They're not council bids, are they?
They're very much what the town would like to see from the offer from local government for funds to level up. That's where it all originated from. Boris came up with the idea. I think there's 101 towns. Millom and Cleator are both very fortunate to be part of the process. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity to bring some much needed capital into Millom to further the regeneration.
Yeah, Kayleigh, it's not either. It's not like there's 25 million up for grabs and we can just spend this how we like. There is certain criterias that you've got to work to make a compliant bid.
Yeah, that's been a real challenge. I think we've had fantastic engagement from the community and brilliant ideas. And even this week, as the bid's gone in, I'm still talking to people with ideas and requests for investment and stuff that are fantastic for the town, but don't align to what the town fund's trying to do. This is a predominantly capital investment, and it's predominantly linked to economic growth. So everything that we have to do has to show a link to how does that sustainably create more money, inward private sector investment in the future. And I think we've been that's been the hardest part of the process, trying to pull together. What we've tried to create is one holistic strategy that all works together, that we can say to government collectively, all 5 of these projects will deliver that sustainable future. And that's not to say that projects that weren't included within that sphere aren't brilliant for the town and aren't local priorities, because they are. It's just we have to go and still tackle them and find ways of doing it, but not as part of this bid, but on top of. This is just a sort of catalyst to start off the process. So yeah, I think that's really important to get across, in terms of if it was a blank cheque, or if it was a cheque for 25 million to spend on whatever we wanted, we could have had a great time. I tell you what, the boards would have been a lot easier. But yeah, I think that's the real tough time that we've had.
Robert, the engagement is beyond just the board as well, isn't it? I know that there's been quite a lot of surveys and the like, and I know in Millom, it's been reported the actual response to the survey was as large as any town in the country, which is shows a lot of public interest in what's been going on with the board and the bid.
Millom town residents have been absolutely superb in responding to surveys right from the start of the process, where we asked for ideas, and we've literally hundreds of ideas, and those have all been captured and noted and taken forward in essence into the bid, which we then had to work through and distill down to arrive at what are the optimum projects that we can take forward that, as Kayleigh says, meets the very strict bid criteria. And all through our board process, we've gone back to the community and asked, and at the as we drew the projects together, we were extremely pleased to see the very high level of support for the various projects that we were proposing.
Yeah, that's great. Kayleigh, the council role in the board is just really to guide and ensure that the bids are compliant. But we've also had specialist consultants working alongside. What has their role been, and how helpful has that been in constructing the final bid?
Yeah, and I have to say, I think, and Robert and I were both part of this process. Robert and I were part of a process to tender for some consultants to help support us. And I think the choices that we made there on that call way back early on have been fundamental to the success of this bid. We have a consultant group called Hatch, and underneath Hatch are a load of partners as well, of all sorts of expertise, from urban planning, economists, you've got graphic designers in there. And Lauren, who's been leading it, she actually lives just across from Millom, so she knows the town, she knows the area, she's been up, and it's a astronomical amount of work in a short space of time in the constraints of COVID that team have put in, and they've been fantastic. And I think that was probably the best decision that we've made throughout the whole process. I think just getting that right, getting the right team on it from the start, has paid dividends now with the quality of the bids that have gone in.
And Robert, the final documents, which are now available on our website for people to read through, they look fantastic, both bids. Do you just want to give us a quick run through your key projects of what's happening in Millom?
Yes, thank you. The Millom comes from an iron background. The ironworks and the mine shut down in the 60s, and that was the key reason for Millom being there. And yes, Millom's got some really good industries in town, which we're hugely proud of. But as a town, are we going to have a new car factory? No, we're not. We're right on the periphery of the national park, the Lake District, and what we have is some amazingly beautiful scenery and opportunities to create a worldwide visitor attraction in Millom around the Hodbarrow site and the sea wall there. It's actually, most of it is owned by RSPB. It's a site of special scientific interest, and it's an old industrial site, but over the years it has healed up and now is hugely attractive, enjoyed by the residents of Millom and some visitors, but with great care we can transform it into what we're christening the Iron Line. That's taken inspiration from the New York High Line, and it fits very well with the national parks. Wish to spread visitors out with the main honeypots, and so what we're looking to do is create a world-class visitor attraction around the Hodbarrow site, which the residents of Millom will be able to very much enjoy first and foremost, and attract visitors, which will then uplift the whole economy of Millom and the surrounding area. And there are then various other projects that fit very neatly with that, including the regeneration of some of the traditional buildings in the town centre and the square. Some of it at the moment looks a little bit jaded, and some funds to smarten those up, repurpose, will make a huge difference. Millom and Havrig are the bid area. At the moment, the connectivity between the two is not brilliant, and we're looking to dramatically improve that, specifically the walking and cycling, and that will actually take people right round the seawall, and an amazing opportunity there, some superb views, and it fits really well with the COVID, getting people out and exercising and walking, and people can enjoy the superb scenery. And that then leaves the other project, the sort of activating health side of it. Our community facilities at the moment, we have some brilliant facilities, rugby pitches and bits and pieces, but our gym, swimming and health facilities out with the key hospital are just lacking, and there's a real wish within the town for a swimming pool, which, to put it very bluntly, we've struggled to fit that into the criteria, and there's been many discussions about whether we can fit it in. We have, and we now await local government's verdict on our key themes, making up our strategic document for the bid for the future of Millom, to transform Millom to a successful visitor attraction with a vibrant economy.
Great, fantastic, Robert. Kayleigh, similar with the Cleator Moor, can you just give us a whistle-stop tour?
Yeah, no problem. Well, you can't talk about Cleator Moor, can you, without talking about the square? And I think I'll say this every time, that's the heart. We've got a really clear centre, really clear heart, and we've got if you come up there and have a look now, we've got the similar issues where we've got buildings around it that have been left to fall into not good state, and it sort of affects the whole economy and the whole attraction of the town. And we've had some real challenges there, similarly, trying to get something that meets the criteria, and to be able to match funding and things like that, to be able to tackle those buildings directly. So what we've actually tried to do is create an environment that's conducive to private sector investment, so that those people that own the buildings that need to do something with it, but it might not make sense at the minute, let's create a town where people want to be, where people are fighting over themselves to get hold of these properties. So to do that, there's a couple of things. So the revitalised town centre is a key anchor for what we're trying to do there, and that'll look at bringing back into proper use those heritage buildings on the square area and around it, with uses for the community as well as for local businesses. We're also trying to inject youth and vitality, and one of our key issues is to do with young people leaving the town and never coming back. I was somebody that did come back, but so UCLan, obviously as an area, we've got West Cumberland Hospital. There's a real need for recruitment and to fill those jobs, and they're biomedical sciences, dentistry and medical school want to expand, and they want to have a campus right in the heart of our town. So that's another anchor project, and the idea of putting 100 to 150 students right in the centre around that square area in a building that's something to be proud of, makes a sort of economic argument for restaurants, pubs, bars to pop up around that, and actually to facilitate the facilities that they need. So that's really exciting. That's our second anchor project with the UCLan piece. Our third anchor project is, as people will have seen in the news, the Leconfield site has been left without investment for 30 odd years now, to be honest, and it's been left to decline. And a lot of the buildings on there, if you speak to the business owners, and they haven't been able to expand or to grow or to change the facilities. They've got high energy bills because it's poor quality infrastructure. So there's a real investment in that, but not just to bring it back up to standard, but to take it somewhere totally different. And obviously, as you know, for 70 years, this community in Cleator Moor have been supporting the operation and decommissioning of Sellafield site down the road. You can't ignore that on our doorstep. It's a massive opportunity, but we don't take full advantage of it. So I think with the Leconfield campus, the idea is we can use that capability that we've built up over 70 years. There's drones already on there at the minute. There's high technology innovation already happening. Build on that, create a bit of a hub, a bit of excitement that's of national significance that actually creates a sticky ball for other things to come around it. And I think so this renovating that site but with a real outward facing mentality is crucial, and it'll take sort of the past 70 years capability into new sectors in the future. And I think there's a lot of work to do if we get the investment to make sure that's done right. But it's very, very exciting if it's done right. So that's our 3 anchor projects. And obviously, the most important thing for them is we need to sustain them and support them. So one of them's around connecting our infrastructure. We're similar to yourselves, Robert, in that we've got the Lake District, we've got Dentfell and Uldale Valley in our, well, right on the edge of our area, and Dentfell actually in our town boundary. And we're right next to Ennerdale. So we want to start the process. Obviously, there was quite tight restrictions of where we could spend the money, so we couldn't actually connect to anywhere else, but we certainly can start the process of getting better connections for cycle and walking infrastructure, safe cycle and walking infrastructure, I should say, around the key areas of the town, lit, wide, attractive spaces to get out and want to walk around the town, and also to places like the Lake District National Park on our doorstep. That's a really exciting one to support it. And then the last one, obviously we need to make sure that all this growth is accessible to our people of Cleator Moor, and we don't just sort of regenerate our town for other people to come to, and don't bring our own residents into that to sustain it as well. So we've got some of the worst metrics in the country for health, and we've also got some of the worst metrics in the country for access to health infrastructure. So those two things compound each other. So what our last project is about, investing in some infrastructure within the town, accessible to local people, to try and tackle some of those barriers to accessing that economic activity, all connected with healthy walkways and cycle routes between these sites, so that actually our local people can get themselves fit, healthy and engaged in this activity too. So they're our 5 projects, but they're all sort of 5 pieces of the same thing. That's what I keep saying to government, in the hope that it'll convince them to give us all the money, because it's all one project really. So yeah.
Well, the good news is the first hurdle, the government check of whether the bids are compliant, has been cleared. The compliant bids are going to go forward to government, and I'd like to make put it on a matter of public record, my thanks to you both for the commitment and time you've committed to these projects over the last 12 months. I know the time, effort, and energy that you've both put into what are 2 fantastic bids, and that's done as volunteers. And I always say somebody doing something because they're passionate about it always delivers a better outcome than people who are doing something just because they're getting paid to do it. This is an unpaid role that you're doing because you both got a great deal of pride and passion about the area that you live in. Robert, would you like to just make any concluding comments before we close today?
We're very much looking forward to the outcome from local government, because really we're at the start of the process. We've got to work up the business cases, and that's going to take the rest of this calendar year. And then once that's been signed off, we can then actually get going and start to deliver the projects which are really key to Millom.
Kayleigh?
Yeah, no, and I was just going to sort of spread that, what you've said out, Mike, down to the full board. And I think it's been so challenging this year. It's been COVID. Everything takes longer virtually is what we've found as well. We've been trying to manage quite discrete threads of projects that have been submitted into these, building them up into the holistic strategies that make sense as one. And that's been really tricky for everyone involved. And I can't thank the board and partners from Hatch and Copeland officer teams as well enough for how much effort they've put in. And I think, you know, my kids have been at home through most of this, and lots of other people's have as well. So we've had COVID, we've had homeschooling, we've had full-time jobs, and we've had this on top. And I think that's for the whole board and supporting people. So just echoing that thanks. And the other bit as well, like Robert said, what happens next is, you know, that's gone in. We're very proud of it, but you know, I'm always going to be nervous, and I am nervous because you just don't know how that's going to be received. Have we got it across enough? Obviously, we're all passionate about it. So this process now, we'll find out whether it's green, hopefully, and we'll get the funding that we've asked for, or ambered, where we've got to go back and do some work. So I think it'll be an iterative process between now and the end of March. But like probably a lot of people in Cleator, Moor and Millom, we've got our fingers crossed, and we're hoping that actually we can get some of these projects funded so that we can make a real difference. So that's all I'd like to say is sign off.
And a real difference is what they'll make to both Millom and to Cleator, Moor, and to, by extension, to the whole of Copeland. You know, I look forward now to, you know, the fantastic bids, you know, the well documented, well written, and I look forward to them coming to life and shovels in the ground, getting them started. And I think there could be a launch pad for some really great things throughout Copeland in the coming years. Can I thank you both very, very much for joining me today? And, you know, once again, thank you for all you've done in putting these bids together. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Kayleigh.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.